Alrighty. So thank you all and good afternoon. Thank you for joining today's section of our cybersecurity incident planning and response. All right. So that is, we've titled you could liken today's training to maybe more like a webinar. But I will not take the webinar approach. Okay, so I will try as much as possible to give you a lot of information that would be useful. That some of you, you take those information away and you can use it in your career. As a matter of fact, you can take it to workplace. You can take it to workplace almost immediately. So what do I mean by that? It just simply means that some of you here, because I know that I have different audiences. Some people are business analysts, some are project managers, some are already in cybersecurity, some maybe you're just starting off, you're not entirely sure whether cybersecurity is for you. Others, you're just curious, you're just here, you just wanted to listen to find out what this is all about. What is this incident, planning and response, course? What does it mean? So I understand that people are in different places in their career. So irrespective of where you are at the moment, I would make this as simple as possible. And I said that I would not take the webinar approach. I would break it down. God help me, with time and speed as well. I will break it down as much as possible, in a way that you can consume it, and hopefully, you could take that away and you can start to make an informed decision for yourself, whether or not cybersecurity is for you, or whether you can take incident management and use it to augment for some of the skills that you already have. Okay, so that's the plan. So let's go into the training proper. So I will start out by just explaining a few concepts. Okay, it's important. So the whole idea today is to teach you about incident response planning. All right, but before we go into what incident response planning is, it's good for us to build a foundation, all right, to understand what precedes incidents, all right. Before we can say something's an incident, there are a few things that actually could possibly precede that, all right, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing in the next few slides. So incident can, be so if you look at what I said, what is a security event, what is also an incident, you can see that they are different. All right, so incident can include event that does not involve damage, but they are viable risk. Okay, so if you look at, I said here, what is security event? A security event can be what we call observables. All right, I'm going to come back to that later. Occurrence that is relevant to information security. All right, it could be anything that happened or that could potentially have information security implication. I think, in other words, what I'm trying to say here, not every event, is an incident. All right, some of you must have heard the word near miss. All right, something could have happened, but it didn't happen. All right, something could have happened, even if you think about our life as well. Maybe you're driving, and maybe you could have an accident, but that accident did not happen. All right, so we could consider what could have happened as an event. All right, and that is also true in the world of cybersecurity as well. All right, so you could have different observables, that are not necessarily, or that's not translated or to become an incident. So spam email is a security event because it may contain link to malware, all right, or to malware. So a lot of us will work in the office space. You will receive different emails, unsolicited emails. All right, you will receive the popular one, the Nigerian prince, or whatever they call it. You could receive, emails like that, unsolicited ones. You could receive emails like, bogus email that says, "Oh, Bill Gates is sharing his wealth," or you could receive an email. Let's say, okay, so for example, now I think April we're going to have Easter, right? So you could start to receive all different sort of emails, promotion about Easter, all right? So you could consider that as a spam email, all right? And in the world of cybersecurity, we do not consider that as an event, all right? We do not consider that as an incident. It is a security event, though it could lead to an incident. But such email that you receive, usually at workplaces, either you delete it if you're aware, or you report it. I use the word if you're aware, or you report that, maybe to the help desk, or you report it, to the cybersecurity team, all right, and they would deal with it, all right. So that is not an event. It is not, that is not an incident. It is still an event, all right. But we said here that such email could also contain, downloadables, link that you could click and that could take you to, even a more malicious website, all right. But like I used the word earlier on, if you're aware, most times, you either do the necessary, you delete it, or you report it, okay. Then what is security incident then? It's a security event that results in damage or risk to information security asset or operation. So I want you to imagine the same email that you received, all right, about maybe Easter promotion or something that's got an email that's got a link there for you to click. You click on such link, and all of a sudden you started noticing that your laptop is becoming slow, all right, or your laptop, is just completely, gone. You couldn't do anything with it, or maybe the screen become, blue or something like that. If that happened, that has become an incident, a security incident. All right, it's a security event that results in damage, such as a loss of data as well. So, I gave an example earlier on that, all of a sudden your laptop become blue. All right, it's unusable. So your laptop is an asset to your organization. Though it's a physical asset, all right, but that asset at that particular time becomes unusable. All right, if it's a more severe incident, all right, assuming that that link contains worm, all right, or it contains maybe a more serious malware, all right, whereby the virus or the worm on that comes from your computer start to propagate across the entire network, and all of a sudden the network becomes slow as well. So it means that maybe you could not send email, you just notice that everything is a little bit drowsy, all right. So if that happened, all right, that is also an incident. So you see that from your laptop, which is a physical asset, it has also started affecting the entire network as well, which can also be a logical asset for your organization. In fact, in some cases where it is more severe, malware, so I'm not teaching you malware today, but malware, can be quite, some malware, can also steal data from your laptop as well. All right, downloadables. So when you click on that link and you have some downloadables into your laptop, you might not be aware. All right, some malware will target data on your laptop, and those information could be collected and sent outside of your organization. Someone might be asking me, oh, how is that possible? It is possible, but this is not the class to teach you how malware would collect your data and send it outside of your organization. So it could result into data loss. So if you experience data loss through this use case that I've just given you an example now, that is also a security incident. Incident can also include events that does not involve damage, but they are viable risk. Absolutely. All right. So you would experience, so for example, if please follow me, I'm giving you different examples now, because my own approach to teaching is I would use real world example so that it would make a lot of sense to you. All right, so let's assume that you work for BNP Paribas, all right, and BNP Paribas uses a product, or maybe BNP Paribas, kind of, consumer service with Virgin Media. All right, so BNP Paribas is the company that you work for. Virgin Media is the company that provides service for your organization. Let's say Virgin Media provide internet pipeline, for your organization. What that simply means is, all of the internet services in your organization, Virgin Media is the one that provide it. So if anything, for any reason, Virgin Media becomes, maybe they suffer a cyber attack, all right, and your internet services, is no longer there. So you can imagine, it could possibly affect your VPN as well. You will not be able to reach all of the services across your data center. So that's an example of a viable risk. A damage has happened, to your supplier, all right. It has become a viable risk to your organization, all right. So that's an example of also a security incident as well. All right. So earlier on, a few things that we have there, observables. Any observable occurrence is the operation of network, all right, or information system, information services system or data, indicating that the security policy may have been violated or a security guard, or guard might have failed. So there are certain things that you can observe in the network that can also suggest, or it could indicate that something has gone wrong. So if you have observables on your network, observables, the network is slow, observables, I couldn't reach I couldn't reach a particular service. Those are observables, all right? They may not necessarily be an incident, they are different, okay? And the reason why this is important is, some of you will go for an interview, these are just typical questions that they would ask you. So what is the difference between an event and an incident? Because you see, if you do not know the difference, the problem there is you will see every event as an incident, all right? And when that happens, the problem is you would, I'm trying to look for the word now. When that happens, I remember I read a book when I was a little, not even young, there's the book here. When that happens, you would be like that little boy that is on the rooftop, no, that's on the mountain, crying out, oh, there is, woof, woof, woof. You just be blowing false alarm all the time, to the management, that an incident has happened, but in real world or in the real sense, it is not an incident. So it's important, for you to be able, to ascertain the difference between an event and incident. All right, is this making sense? I know that a lot of you cannot, talk back to me, but if it's making sense to you, I usually like it when he says yes, in the chat box. If you have any questions, please, by all means, put it in the chat box. My colleagues are there, Timothy, Tunde Shogalu, and also Mr. Hariboje, would help collect all of those questions as well. So you know the difference between an event and incident and why it is important for us, to be able to distinguish between both. All right. So these are a few examples as well. So you could see here, I have different types. I have security events, then I also have security incident as well, all right? User stated that a computer is not working properly and they cannot access some files, all right? So this is not, that's an event. It is not necessary. So if a user says this, usually this would be reported maybe via the help desk, and this ticket will be assigned to someone within the team, and they will start to work on it, all right? So that is not an incident. But listen, help desk find a virus on that system. So if there is a virus on that system, all right, so it means that between event and incident, all right, someone must have carried out some exercise, troubleshoots to ascertain to what extent, all right? I'm still going to be teaching you triaging. Please note that word, with triage, all right? Note that word because we're going to come back to it, pretty much later, all right? So between when it is reported And when someone actually go there, an engineer goes there to ascertain to what extent, all right, to what extent this event, to what extent is this event, then you can be able to prove or tell whether it is an incident or not. All right, someone is involved. All right, so it is not good enough to say, oh yeah, my laptop is working. All right, then you trigger an incident. All right, you don't do that. All right, you find out to what extent, what is happening, then you'll be able to tell, whether it's an incident or not. All right, ransomware. A staff person reported their file cannot be opened, and they have noticed. Sorry, there's a bit of typo there. A ransomware virus is on the computer and has a notification that files are encrypted and Bitcoin payment is required. All right, so if you experience this, all right, where, again, it has been proved beyond reasonable doubt, all right, that ransomware, is actually on that laptop. And you know what ransomware is? Some of you have not experienced it. So if you have a ransomware on your end device, for example, all right, your end device, maybe your computer, for example, could go blank. All right, and when it goes blank, you might get a pop-up, and that pop-up at that moment will say that, oh, you have to pay, so that they can send you a key, and with that key you'll be able to, release the software, release the laptop, blah, blah. But you know what ransomware is anyway. If some of you are from where I come from, where they do a whole lot of kidnapping, you probably understand what I'm talking about. So this is kidnapping, in the logical word. All right. So yeah, so somebody kidnapped your laptop, logically, sorry, I use that word. But now they're demanding for ransom on the back of that. So again, there must be a proving, to beyond reasonable doubt that an event has actually happened that has resulted into incident, and to what extent that has happened as well. So the extent to what it to how and the extent to how it has happened is where the triaging would come in as well, and then we can now start to rate the incident, whether it is critical, whether it is high, whether it's medium, or whether it is low. All right, so you get the gist around, all right, incident, security event, and also security incident as well, with those two examples. Let's move on. So then how do we now respond? So once you prove by, checking, by, going into the network, getting onto the laptop, collecting evidences, to prove that an incident has just happened, then how do you respond? How do you respond to that incident? So let's look at a few definition, but it's important for you to know that the fundamental goal of incident response is to successfully remove a threat, from an enterprise IT environment. What do I mean by that? So earlier on, we said ransomware. All right. So if you have an incident response in your organization, the primary objective is for you to be able to identify, all right, the malware or the ransomware, the malware on the asset, and successfully removing it. All right, that is the goal of incident response. Okay, it is also aimed at minimizing damage and restoring what we call a business continuity. All right, it is also aimed at reducing damage. So the whole idea is, when an incident happens, the engineers, you quickly want to swift into action, all right, to reduce the extent of the damage, all right, and also to restore business continuity, all right. You don't want the virus to spread. You don't want the malware to spread. You also want to ensure, that while you're doing that, the malware does not affect other users. The virus does not affect other users. So in the process of doing that, you want to ensure that there is business continuity, because if you reduce the chances of that spread, all right, it means that people can carry on, work, they can continue to work. You see, a lot of people work from home these days, all right? If you are IT person, or if even if you work in other sector, I know that people are returning back to work maybe once or twice or three times in a day. But in the early days of the pandemic, you see VPN and load balancing, devices becomes very, very important. As a matter of fact, we're beginning to see the importance of, even the internet as well, because if you do not have a VPN through which you can log onto your network, then the business is going to suffer a lot of loss. I'm talking about business continuity now. So if there's an attack on the VPN, for example, or the VPN becomes unavailable, then you cannot securely, connect to the services, at workplace. Hence, it would impact, business continuity. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that is the primary goal. Don't forget that, so it's all about preparing you for the job and the interview that you want to go and do. At some point, they would ask you. They may not ask you directly, to say, oh, so what do you think is the goal? All right, of incident response. But you should just know it at the back of your hand that the main objective, all right, is to reduce damage as much as possible and also to restore, business continuity. All right, and also to restore business continuity. Okay, so a few definitions there. So we said here that incident response is the term used to describe the process by which, so I colored the word process, all right, by which an organization handles a data breach or cyber attack, including the way the organization attempts to manage the consequences of the attack or the breach itself. So it is a process, and we're going to be coming back, to what that process is pretty much later. All right, so it is not just what you do, it is multiple, it involves multiple steps, okay? From the time that you identify the incident, to the time that, you triage the incident, to the time that, you contain the incident, also to the time that you restore your network, so involve multiple steps, all right? All the way down, up until the time, that you achieve the aim or the objective of your incident response, which is reduce damage and also restore business continuity. All right. So, so it is a process, and we're going to be coming back to that process later. Please note that. All right. But NIST, which is a type of framework, incident management framework, define incident response as a structured process that organizations use to identify and deal with cybersecurity incident. All right. Response include, several stages, from preparation for the incident, to detection, to analysis of security incident, to containment, to eradication, to full recovery, and post mortem analysis as well, and learning. All right. So for NIST has about 6 stages there. You could see 6 steps there: preparation, detection, and an analysis, containment, number 4, number 3, eradication, number 4, full recovery, number 5, post incident analysis, and also learning, which is number 6. So for NIST is saying that, for you to have a proper process, all right, a process, that you could, a well-rounded process, that you must have these 6 steps, all right, in your incident response management plan. All right, you call it a structured process. We're going to be coming back to this, pretty much later. But let me give you an example of this preparation. All right. So I use this example a lot, and I hope that we never have a reason to experience that again and again and again in the entire world. When the world was when I use the word now, when the entire world was under siege. When I say siege, then siege from ISIS. I remember that everybody were scared to our pants. You can't even go. We go out, but you're just suspicious of everybody. You're in the train. You're frightened. Even not to talk about the bad news that you receive like every other day in the news. And I remember that there was this combat. I use this example a lot. This combat, like the combat policemen or army. I don't know what they are. Because there was a lot of, I'm trying to explain preparation now. So there was a lot of incident that was just quite sporadic then in London. And you hear of knife crime, and someone had just knife, and this ISIS people, and it was crazy. And I remember then, because I was working in London. I remember that this combat soldiers or police, they would usually have a drill across the Thames, and that drill is they would preempt them, what we call in cybersecurity, we call it we call it in threat hunting, we call it, oh dear, I just went over my head now. Hypothesis, all right. In threat hunting, we call it hypothesis, all right. So maybe they would call, imagine a situation that an incident has just happened. Maybe someone has knifed another person in London Bridge, and they will get on their speedboat, and they will carry out this drill, and the speedboat, they will land at London Bridge, and they will get out of the boat and pretend as if they were trying to rescue someone. So that is an example of a preparation, all right? So they anticipate that something could possibly happen, so they were getting themselves ready for it, all right? So that's a typical example of incident response and how they are preparing for such response should in case or as at when it happens in London. All right, is this making sense to us? Please, I'm using some very funny example, but I just wanted to be sure that you're getting it. Give us a thumbs up or just say, yeah, this is making sense. Is this making sense to us? All right, let's go on. So we're still on incident response. So we're talking about incident response here. But you see, when you now know what incident response is, then you also have to have a plan. All right, you have to have a plan. So the plan is, so you know that cyber attack is inevitable. All right, but how do I plan for it should in case it happens? All right, so, and this is what I'm going to be talking about next in the next few slides. So incident response is an organizational process that enables timely, effective response to cyber attack. The incident response process include identifying an attack, all right, understanding the severity, all right, prioritizing it, investigating and mitigating the attack, all right, restoring operation and taking action to ensure it won't reoccur, all right? So that is a plan, all right? In some organizations, you would have your process, then you would also have your plan as well. There are two different things, all right? They might be intertwined, but they are two different things. If you look at what NIST was telling us, NIST gave us step by step, if you want to have a structured approach, what should be involved in your step, preparation, detection, and all of that, all right? So if it says preparation and detection, and I've given you an example of preparation, detection, it means that you must have a mechanism in place to be able to detect that incident. You know what I mean? There must be a mechanism. In cybersecurity, you would have different toolings that you would use, to identify or to detect, a possible cyber attack in your network, all right? I'm still going to be coming back to that. But planning is, see, now that you have the process to identify the incident, then how do you now plan? All right, what is the plan? There must be a plan. There must be a process. There must be a plan as well. So this one is talking about now you have to understand severity, all right, because not all security event is an incident, all right, and not all incident, not all incident you need to prioritize, all right? So again, I take that word, not all security event is an incident, and not all incident that you need to prioritize, all right? There are some incident that, yes, they are incident, but you don't need to prioritize. Let me give you an example. Say, for example, you, let's say, Shegun reported a security event, and that security event is, his laptop is slow, all right? Then he reported it. Then an engineer pick up that, ticket, what Shegun reported, and the engineer start to investigate it. And the engineer from investigation actually could prove that truly, there's been a security incident because on Shegun's laptop, all right, there is an observable, of malware, all right, file on Shegun's laptop. All right, so the engineer, takes a quick action, isolate Shegun's laptop from the network and start to work on it. All right, maybe to a large extent, he was able to prove that, oh, this incident is just, peculiar to Shegun, not to the entire network. All right, so I'm talking about severity and how to prioritize it. Of course, the engineer is going to take that laptop and start to work on it to ensure that, they remove the damage as much as possible. In fact, by isolating the laptop from the network, he has already reduced the risk of the malware spreading. All right, so I'm talking about severity now. You can notice that what I've just said now, that Shego's laptop is the only laptop, maybe among many laptops, in the enterprise, maybe among many, maybe in that enterprise, you have 30,000 users. It's just one laptop, that is affected. So in terms of severity, all right, that would be low, all right, across the enterprise risk, okay? It will be low. I'm going to be coming back to that. So the point that we're trying to talk about here, that under planning, you must have a way of ascertaining the severity, of an incident and prioritizing it as well, and what you do to investigate them. We're going to be coming back to that, pretty much later. So the takeaway for you here, a process is different from a plan. Okay. So what do you need to know, or what do you need to include in your incident response plan? All right, what do you need to include in your incident response plan? There are a few notes here, or few bullet points here that you need to include. Number one, key contacts, all right? So key contacts, all right? So when I'm talking about incident now, I'm talking about an enterprise-wide incident, all right? So I'm not talking about just an incident where it just affects one user, like the case that I gave you, again, like Shegu, all right? That's just one user among 3,000 users. But if it involves, many users, all right, then that is in terms of the severity, it is high. So when you're having your plan, or when you're developing a plan for your organization, you must ensure that within your incident response plan, you must have the key contact. The key contact could be the incident response, team, all right? The incident response team usually will consist of the technical guys, the cybersecurity team, or the SOC analyst, the network team. It might involve the IT team as well, maybe people that, infrastructure team, the database team, all right? Those would be member of your incident response plan. You could also involve, the business continuity team as well, if you have one in your organization. So anybody that is involved in any techie stuff, all right, they would be involved, they would be member of, the incident response plan, all right? You could also involve senior management as well, all right? Maybe your manager, you could involve your manager's manager, your bosses. It could involve the CISO, people in the CISO office, if you have them. CISO is your Chief Information Security Office or Officer. You could involve them as well. They will be part of that plan. So you can notice now that, you see, process is different from plan. In plan, you would actually have, these items that I listed here, key contact. In your key contact as well, you would have, the legal team, all right? You would have the legal team. You would have your public relation officer, should in case you need to escalate anything outside of your organization. The HR would be involved in your key contact. Sometimes you could also have the insurance in your key contact as well. The insurance, if you have insurance in your organization, especially if you have cybersecurity insurance. And then you would have your escalation criteria. This is along with processes for critical decision as well. All right. So what that simply means is, if you need to, if it's a very severe incident, and maybe you're going to at some point you're going to need maybe your suppliers to help you. Say, for example, if one of your services is being compromised, say, for example, maybe your Virgin Media line went down and there is no internet service, or maybe your load balancing technology is unavailable, and maybe you need to contact likes of F5 Big IP or Zscaler, or whoever is providing any services for you, all right? You need a proper escalation criteria. How do you escalate, what you're currently dealing with, maybe to a third party, or even to the management as well. You would also need what we call the basic flow chart as well, or process. I'm going to be showing you a process, pretty much later. So the process will contain what we call the entire, our full incident management life cycle. I'm going to be showing you one shortly. You need that as well in your plan, because what that process would depict is every step that you need to take when you're carrying out an incident response. You would also need like a conference number as well. A conference number is if you have to call people into a meeting. So we mentioned earlier on that you would have key contact, you would have the HR, you have the legal, you would have the techie guys. So if you quickly need to have a meeting with them, when you're triaging or troubleshooting something, you will need a conference number where you can call everybody into a meeting. You would also need, legal support as well. You would need something around regulatory requirements. All right. So, for example, in GDPR, there's a need for you to report an incident which actually involve the loss of data, personal identifiable information. So, if that is the case, perhaps you would need somebody. You will need the GRC team or the data regulatory team, as part of your contact. All right, and in your incident management response plan. So if you need to report something to maybe to the ICO, Information Commission Office, they also need to be part of this plan as well so that they are reachable. All right, so you notice that this is really, really different from your process. So your incident management response plan is a robust document that contains a whole lot of information. In fact, you can even go beyond this as well. You could also have in your plan, you could also have playbook as well, or run book, all right? But you see the playbook and the run book is beyond the scope of what I'm teaching you today. If you come for the main training, then we can teach you all of the playbooks and the run book that you can ever think of. All right, so these are just guidelines, all right, to what your plan could look like. All right. Part of what we teach as well is for those that are going to be coming for the main course, there will be an aspect of our training where you can actually practicalize some of these things, where you would, write for us, a thorough incident management process and also incident management plan as well. So if you're that type that you actually wanted to get your hands dirty, then our platform is where you will do that. It's also important for you to know that some people might be thinking here, Wally, do I need to be a cybersecurity guru, to be able to, do incident response management? No. But one thing that is very, very important here, a little bit of digression, that if you want to make this a career, then it's important for you, you must have good communication. I have worked with an incident response management incident response manager for a few companies before. I mean, you can be on holiday for a few days if your network is quiet and nothing is there. But of course, if you have incident, then you're going to be very, very busy. But one thing I noticed, that it's important that if you're going to work as an incident response management manager, then you must have great communication plan. All right, you must have a good, incident response plan as well. Something I've just showed you, whereby you have, who to reach out to and how to reach out to them as well, particularly when you're triaging an incident. These are type of incident. I'm not going to really bore you with this one. If you're a cybersecurity person, perhaps maybe you must have come across a few of this before. A typical one is brute force attack, a malware infection. We've given that example, or attack. DDoS attack. This is very, very common. Unauthorized access to your network, internet security breach, privilege escalation attack, advanced persistent threat, and also loss or theft of equipment as well. These are examples, of security incident. It's just example. It can be much more than this, but these examples, trust me, they happen on a regular basis. All right. So now that we've talked about, we've been able to look at the difference between security event and security incident. Then we gradually will move into what is an incident. What is a security incident? I think we explained that. We talked about incident response process. We have talked about incident response plan as well. Let's now talk about, all right, incident response framework. Okay, so we've been talking about process and we've been talking about plan. All right. So the good thing about cybersecurity is there are so many frameworks that are out there. You see, you don't have to I don't want to use this word, but you don't have to crack your brain, or try to crack your head to say, oh yeah, I don't, it's difficult to create a framework. No, because there are up to like 6, no, there are up to 5 frameworks that are out there, and I'm going to be sharing a few with you, in the next few slides. So what is then an incident response framework? A framework provides a structure. I want you to note the word structure, all right? We saw an example earlier on, which is the NIST. A framework provides a structure, all right, to support incident response operation, all right? So if incident response is a process, you would agree with me that you need like a structure, all right, to it. What you will do first, what you will do second, what you do the third, the fourth, and the fifth, just as we saw with NIST earlier on. So a framework typically provides guidance on what needs to be done, but not how it is done. It is important that you note that. All right. So there are different frameworks. It will provide you guidance, but it doesn't tell you the how. It tells you the what. All right. It goes as far as, give you maybe a little bit, clue about the why, but it doesn't tell you the how. A framework does not tell you. The how is what you have to now work out in your own organization. All right. So earlier on, we're talking about plan. Plan, for example, is the how. You know what I mean? Is the how. All right. So once you have a structure in place, which depicts your step-by-step approach, then you have to now put together, the how. So let's now show you a few examples that are out there. All right. So we have different frameworks, like I said earlier on. So we have what we call the ISO incident response framework. All right. We have the ISACA incident response framework. We have the SANS Institute Incident Response Framework. Then we also have what we call the NIST Incident Response Framework. All right, so there are 4 of them. But if you notice, I have the 5th one there, which is called the OODA loop. All right, for if you come for the main training, I'm going to be sharing with you the OODA loop. All right, the OODA loop, is the, like, where we come from, they said is the Oga Pata Pata of them all. Sorry, I used my local lingua. All right, is the one that is on the, the big boy. All right, OODA loop is not new. It's always been around. But what I noticed, because I'm a cybersecurity practitioner, I've had the opportunity to work for so many organizations. All right, I noticed that the OODA loop is being adopted, by, massive enterprise these days. All right, so whilst, you have the 4 framework, OODA loop is also now being integrated into, so whatever framework that you adopt, most organizations are now adopting. So organizations are also now integrating OODA loop into their existing framework. All right, so I just want you to hold that thought, because we're going to come back to it, pretty much later. So let's start with the ISO. So the ISO, for example, that contains 6 elements. All right, I'm not going to be going into the details here. It's important that, this is pretty much like a webinar stroke training, but the actual training will talk about, we'll talk about it in depth. All right. So the ISO, for example, it contains 6 elements, 6 steps. Number 1 is incident detection. Number 2 is notification. Number 3 is triaging. Number 4 is analysis. It contains what we call, it also has containment, eradication, and also recovery and reporting. Somebody might say, well, it seems that was more than 6. All right, it is not more than 6 actually. So I will report it again: incident detection and notification, and triaging. Then we have, the analysis, which is part of the triaging as well. We have the containment, which that is number 3. We have eradication, number 4, eradication and recovery. Number 5. We have eradication and recovery, number 5. Then we also have reporting as well. So it's got 6 elements in it. And the ISO framework is the ISO 27035. ISO 27035. Some of you are familiar with the ISO family. And the latest version for this stage is version 2016. All right, ISO 27035, which is ISO 27035. I'm repeating it again for some of you that are taking note. All right, and the latest version for this is version 20 2016. All right. This particular ISO provides, guidance to guideline to plan and prepare for incident response. All right. The guideline, they are based on plan and the prepare phase and the lesson learned as well. So maybe some of you might quickly want to check it out on the internet. It's ISO 27035. 27035 version 2016. All right, that is the latest. But it's also important that for you to know, this is just a kind of information for you. The standard, which is ISO, is reversed every 5 years. All right, so there would be I think this one is due for update actually, and I suspect that not that I suspect, I think I read it somewhere that this particular version will be replaced with the ISO DSI 27005 version 2. All right, you might just want to check that out as well. And the reason why I mentioned that is you can go into an interview and you're talking about maybe for that particular organization they have adopted the ISO incident response framework. All right, which is the 27035. All right, and they are currently using the 2016 version. They may ask you that, oh, so what new version is coming? All right, so it's important for you to know the new version, and the new version is ISO DSI 27005 version 2. All right, you might just want to check that out when you get the chance. All right, then we now have ISACA. All right, so ISACA, which is formerly known as Information System, Audit and also Control Association. Some of you are already an ISACA member. So ISACA, just like NIST and ISO, they also offer their own incident management response plan. All right, they also offer their own as well. And this also includes different, steps as well. So it involves planning and preparation, involve detection, triage, and also investigation, containment, analysis, tracking and recovery, post-incident assessment, and also incident closure as well. Don't worry, I don't expect you to remember everything that I'm saying here, to be honest. If I was listening to, I'm the one listening, I probably will not remember everything. But what is important is we're going to make this video available, for as many that wanted to listen to it again. Please, by all means, if you have already, if you have registered, then Timothy, my colleague, is going to send you some information, and there will be a link to where you can access the video and listen to me over and over again. But if you haven't registered, then maybe you should do so. All right. Then the next one is SANS. All right. So SANS Institute Incident Response playbook or framework. Also has 6 steps as well. It has preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lesson learned as well. All right. So you could see these 4. If you've been listening to me carefully, all right, you will notice that it has some commonalities. Yeah, there are certain things that are common to them. So if you think about NIST now, we've not talked about NIST. No, maybe we'll talk about NIST earlier on. If you think about NIST, for example, NIST has got preparation. All right, SANS has also got preparation. NIST has got detection and analysis. Let me tell you, SANS called their own identification. It is still the same thing. All right, it is still the same thing. So they just use different words. But if you look at the objective of each of these steps, they're exactly the same. Then if you look at number 3 for NIST, NIST says here, containment, eradication, and recovery. Then SANS call is as well, exactly the same. But it calls it that the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. And lastly, NIST says it's got 4 steps. All right. What he did was it compresses the 3rd step into 3 items there. If you're looking at my screen, there are 3 items there: containment, eradication, and recovery. Then the number 4 item here or step is post-incident activity. Then SANS calls is as lesson learned. Truth be told, if you're doing post-incident activity, what you're trying to do is gather information. It's part of learning. It's part of lesson learned as well. So you can see that they have different names for it, but the objective is the same. All right. So the point I'm trying to make there is you don't need to cram it. You know what I mean? If you know one, you probably know the rest. You'll probably know the other three. You know what I'm saying? All right. But you see, for different organizations adopt different frameworks. All right. They looked at what is more robust and they adopt it. So if you're in UK, for example, chances are maybe a UK company can adopt ISO. All right. If you think about an organization that has a global footprint, bigger organization, they may decide to go for NIST. All right. Some you may even decide to go for SANS. But whatever process that you have, always ensure that you're taking your reference from a particular framework. All right. I hope you're listening to me. Whatever process that you adopt or process that you create for your organization for incident response, always ensure that you are taking reference from any of these framework. All right. Then lastly, OODA loop. All right. So OODA loop, as it were, is not a framework. All right. OODA loop, OODA loop where you have OODA. All right. So O means observe. The second O means orient. The third D means decide. And the fourth means act. So it's a first-step approach to decision-making that focuses on filtering available information, putting it into context, and quickly making the most appropriate decision while also understanding that change can happen along the way. So the point is, in incident response, it's all about available data. All right, let me take you back to the combat police the example that I gave you in the early days of the ISIS when the whole world was in turmoil. All right. So if there is a call to 111 or whatever it is, for example, say, oh, there has been an attack in London. All right. And they were able to get information as the location. Guess what? They make a decision there and there. All right. They may not get all the facts. They may not get the number. They may not get, oh, maybe 2 people or 3 people have gun or knife. All right. They just have an information. They swing into action immediately. All right. The same also, if there's been a crime somewhere, maybe your neighborhood, of course, we've seen this before, or an accident, they will see the police with their, with their siren. They are off to the location, of where that incident happened. And the moment is they want to contain the damage as much as possible. They may not have all the information, but they want to contain the damage. This is where OODA loop, comes in. When it comes to incident response, for your incident response. So a lot of organizations are beginning to adopt this. All right, so they do not wait for you to have all the information. Whatever that you have, all right, say for example, if the VPN, let me give you another example. If you receive a 0-day attack alert, maybe from your vendor, all right, that maybe a particular product that you're using in your organization, let's say Salesforce, or let's say Workday. All right, let's say there's been a 0-day attack on Workday to say, oh, Workday has, there's a likelihood that, Workday could be compromised, and you receive that from Workday itself. All right, you do not wait, to get all the facts. As an incident management response, manager, what you will do immediately is you will gather your team together. All right, then the question you're gathering information about, all right, we have Workday as an application here. All right, where is the service? Is it in the cloud? Is it on-prem? How many people have got access to that? You start to triage immediately. This is where OODA loop comes in. So it's all about taking response almost immediately with minimal information that you gathered or that you have. Then you can now start to get more information. Is this making sense to us? I'm really excited about what I'm sharing with you today, but I hope you're excited as well. Is this making sense? All right, so somebody says it's making sense today. I want more, yeah, if this is good for you, it makes me feel good if you're getting it, but if you're not getting it, then I haven't done a good job. Someone says it's making sense, but a lot of information. Oh, of course, if you're new to, InfoSec, there will be a lot of information. I get it. All right. Okay, so thank you for all of the feedback. Okay, so you get the OODA loop, but you see, I did not teach you everything about OODA loop, to be honest, because this is not the class for it. if you want to learn all of those now, then the main thing is we would bring you, into the meeting, and I'll begin to share with you facts on how to use OODA loop. All right. So let's now look at incident response framework versus incident response plan. All right. So let's look at both of them. All right. I need to move quickly now. Oh, okay. We still have 1 hour. All right. I think I'm doing well with time. A framework provides a conceptual structure. You remember we said framework only answer 2 questions, the what and the why. All right, the framework does not tell you how. All right, the how you have to go and figure it out. The how is your plan, is the plan that you create in your organization, because the way that you would respond to incident in company A is different to the way that you would respond to incident it might be similar, but it will just be slightly different. So that is your how. All right. So framework provides a conceptual framework structure, and incident response framework provides structure to support incident response operation. A framework typically provides guidance on what need to be done, but not how it is done. I think I've talked about this. A framework is also loose and flexible enough to allow elements to be added or removed as necessary to satisfy a particular organization and its consistency. So you see, I was showing you this earlier on. That's the beauty of a framework, so you could look at OAPS. So you could look at ISACA. So you could look at ISO and check what the element in ISACA, and you say, okay, I like ISO, but there are certain things in the steps that ISO depict that may not necessarily apply to my organization. All right. Then you go and look at SANS and said, okay, oh wow, I looked at SANS. I like the way SANS lists: preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, lesson learned. Okay, all right. So maybe I like SANS. All right. Or you could look at NIST and said, oh, maybe post-incident activity. Maybe it sounds, it sounds more techy for you. So you can take both of them and adopt it. Okay. And that's why it says here that the framework is also loose and flexible enough. All right. So you do not necessarily have to lift it the way it is and use it in your organization. You can if you want, but it means that, but it's saying here that you could choose, what applies to your organization. You could choose what applies to your organization. All right. Plan. A plan is the detailed set of steps intended to achieve a goal. All right. So remember, we said something earlier on that the whole idea about incident response, the main objective is, or the goal is, number one, to contain damage as much as possible and to ensure that, our business continuity, resumes, if anything happens. All right. You contain the damage and you ensure that, you reduce the impact to your business continuity. Your organization is still working. Let me give you an example. So if you take Amazon, look at us today. Every one of us, we are home. Well, I believe that you're home, but wherever you are, maybe you're somewhere. Some people would just choose to buy, perhaps you might not go to Morrison's today. Well, it is sunny today, actually. I don't know where you are, but the weather is beautiful. All right. But look at this weather. Some people might decide that, oh, no, I'm just going to go to Morrison's today, to go buy my groceries, because the weather is nice. All right. Others, they might just work night shift. They thought, oh my goodness, they can't go out. They might decide to buy online. All right. So let's say you buy from Amazon. All right. So Amazon, you interact with their website. Their website is one of their greatest assets. You see, none of us will give our money to Amazon. We don't even know Jeff Bezos. We don't know who he is. Do you know what I mean? Well, we've seen his picture, but we've not met him. But yet we give our money to him. But how do we do that? We go to the website and buy whatever we need. All right. So you interact with the website. The website is one of the most important assets, to Amazon. All right. So if the website becomes under cyber attack, all right, it becomes unavailable, then Jeff Bezos will suffer a lot of loss. Okay, so the point that we're trying to make here is for that organization of that size, and we've said that the website is one of their most critical assets. Guess what? They would have, in fact, I don't know, I've not seen their incident management response plan, but they would have a thorough incident management response plan. All right, with the view that, the business must continue even if they suffer an attack. Business continuity. Do you think Amazon has not suffered an attack before? Several times. It's just that, you see, it is not apparent to you because they have, an up-to-date incident management response plan. So, maybe their website becomes unavailable. To you as a user, you may not notice because, they have a robust business continuity management plan. Maybe the site, if one becomes unavailable, is flipped, the site, to another DR, location, where to an end user, you don't just know, you just notice that, oh, well, what happened? Maybe what happened in the last 5 minutes, but something has just happened that it is not apparent to you because they have a robust incident management response plan. So the point I'm trying to make there is, they would always, the goal is to contain damage and also to ensure, business continue, if an attack occurs. All right. So what are we saying here? In plan, you're actually, you're talking about how you would respond, to a plan. All right. So earlier, we have talked about ISO, different types of framework. We talk about SANS, we talk about ISACA, then we said we have NIST as well. Then I just touched on OODA. All right. But in the next few slides, I'm going to be touching on what NIST framework is all about. All right. NIST framework. So the NIST incident response plan. All right. This is part of US Department of Commerce. It's part of the US Department of Commerce. NIST mission is to promote US innovation and industrial competitiveness by advising measure science, standard, technology, and all of those good things. That's what NIST is all about. All right. But don't forget, it is one of the framework. So let me show you how many stages that you have. You've seen it before. It's got 4 stages. All right. So we've got the preparation, we've got the detection, we've detection and analysis, we've got the containment, we've got the eradication, and recovery. Then we also got the the post-incident activity. Just bear with me for a sec. All right, so let's look at each of them, what it means. Okay, preparation. So under preparation phase of the life cycle, I gave you an example earlier on. All the components needed to respond effectively to computer security incident, they are first identified, they are created, and they are acquired. All right, so I gave you the example of the combat police and the soldier. We said an incident happened in London. All right, so but here it says everything that you need to respond to the incident, you have to acquire it first. All right, so for the combat soldier, their boat, all right, is a means of transportation to wherever the incident is happening live. All right, their boats, all right, it takes them, it conveys them there. They would also have they would be armed as well. They probably would have their, their gun and, a few ammunitions here and there. So all of that, they needed to respond to incident. So the point we're trying to make here with NIST is saying, before you start to go and buy your firewall, IPS and IDSs, your SIM solution. I'm using those words now because I'm taking some assumptions that you have an idea of, a detection control. All right. So before you go and get involved in, buying all of those detection controls, all right, it's important for you, all right, to first identify and create what you need. All right. So if you look at this one, I have few bullet points there. He said, what do you need in preparation? You have to establish an incident response capability, process, and plan. You could see that, again, it takes us back. You need a process, you need a plan. So when you walk into an interview and they're asking you, so how do you, or maybe they start to take you to a framework, so they now ask you that, okay, so what's the first thing you would do? All right, if you get into an organization, where they do not have incident management response plan, what is the first thing that you do? You see, what they are trying to test is your knowledge of incident management framework. So you don't go around and say, oh yeah, I will build a SOC, I would do why all of those are very, very good. No, that is not the first thing to do. The first thing to do is, number one, you need a process and a plan. Then look at the second one. He said, create incident response policies and procedure. So, all right, number 2 is policy and procedure. You need a plan, you need a process, you need a policy, you need a procedure. They are different things entirely. All right. So in some organization, if you go there, they will say they have an incident response management policy. All right. So the incident response management policy is an administrative control. It underpins every other thing that you do in your organization as it relates to, incident response. All right. So you need a policy. It's a very high level, but every other thing is glued. If I use that word, is glued. Every other thing that you will do in your incident response plan is contained in your policy, including how you respond to incidents as well. So your policy is very, very important. All right. You said here, acquire and train your incident response staff. Absolutely. All right. You don't take people to battle without actually training them. So we talk about the combat soldier earlier on. They would have been trained. As a matter of fact, when they are carrying out that drill, they anticipate that an incident would happen. So, they were training. They were training themselves. They will be timing how long it would take them, to fly the boat from that particular location to London where that incident is taking place. They will time themselves. So if they can get there, maybe when they tried, they got there like in 5 minutes, they will see if they could do it in 2 minutes or even less than that. All right. So you have to train your staff. All right. So if you do not train them, then giving them a tool, like IDS and IPSs or the SIM solution will just be useless. They won't be able to do anything with it. Then you also have to have, incident tracking system, your ticketing application. You also have to create, incident response reporting policy and process. So when an incident happened, how do you want to, report it, to the management? You also have to have that as well. Then determine the incident, our policies, process, and tooling and procedure. So these are all the preambles. These are the things that you have to have in place first before you start to talk about detection. So in detection now, see, if you notice everything here, ladies and gentlemen, there isn't anything about technology here in preparation. Everything in preparation is all about administrative. It's all about administration, all right? All about administration. This is what is going on here, all right? But if you go to detection, now you're talking about technology, all right? So of course, can you detect cybersecurity with your eye? You can't detect it now. You need something that will be able to be collecting data and also do analytic as well. And that is where technology will come in. So if you notice here, we said incident detection method is using various monitoring systems, which may include firewall, intrusion detection system, network traffic analysis system, NTA. Then you also have the security information and event management systems. All right, you would have all of that. So under detection, which is similar to SANS, SANS, it says identify. All right, SANS says identify. This one says detection. Is the same thing. All right, because you have to be able to, in cybersecurity, you need toolings, to carry out your detection. Let's move on quickly. Containment, eradication, and recovery. This is no brainer. In fact, when you think about this word, all right, they're also military word as well. All right. If you go to a crime scene, they will say in that crime scene, contain the evidence. All right. So what they're saying, in other words, is try and protect that evidence. All right. Most crime scene, you would have them, they would, kind of barricade it, so that nobody goes there to go and contaminate it. They will contain the evidence. So contain follows the detection and the validation of security incident. The goal of the containment is simple: to stop the problem from going worse or limiting the damage. So we gave an example earlier on that Shegun's laptop was infected by malware, all right? And he has suffered this. We said the first thing the engineer will do is to try to contain the damage. What does that mean? The engineer can decide that he would isolate the laptop from the network. So when he's doing that, is actually on phase 3, all right, of the NIST, cybersecurity framework. So he isolated the network, he isolated the laptop from the network, is containing it, okay? All right, regain control of the system and also the network as well. So when you're doing this, you are on phase 3, containment, eradication, and also recovery as well. So recovery could be, maybe the laptop is already, corrupted, all right? Maybe they need to re-image the laptop, all right? So if they need to do that, then what, the engineer is trying to do is to eradicate and also to recover the laptop as well, all right? Phase 3. Is this phase 3 now? I think, yeah, so phase 3, just a few, I think I had some few stuff there. So elimination is the elimination of the component of the incident. It includes like removing malware, eliminating malicious user account, identifying vulnerabilities that are exploited as part of the security. Recovery is the restoration of the system to normal operation. Like I said, you reclone the system, you put a new so you put a new software, onto the system. When you do that, you're actually doing the recovery as well. Number 4, which is the last one, is called the post-incident activity. Under number 4 in SANS, we call it lesson learned. All right, this one calls it post-incident activity. And if you are a project manager, some of you here, or you're, maybe project manager, if you're in a project, they will say lesson learned. All right, you at the end of your project, you come together, you'll be talking about lesson learned. It is not different, in incident management. All right, but incident management, we're just talking about more of an incident that has happened and what the business can learn from it. All right, so this one centers the lesson learned to accomplish 2 things: improve the incident response capability and also prevent the incident from reoccurring. So what that simply means is, if you're doing lesson learned, if your process is not tight enough, I use the word tight now, if it's not good enough or there are gaps in your process, then from the incident learned, you can improve your process. All right, you could add maybe an extra layer into your process to improve it, or remove a layer from your process, to even further improve it. All right, then you also want to ensure that sometimes incident learned, it could be that you have a gap in your processes. All right, which could lead to your organization investing or buying something. So for example, now, if you did not, if what happened, you did not detect, all right, the attack, on time, you didn't detect it on time, maybe because you do not have a particular tool that would help you. All right, so that is a gap in your incident, in your process. So you could go back to the management. Management can look at that and say, oh yeah, okay, because we have this gap, then maybe we have to invest in some toolings. All right, so the post-incident is very, very important. It's for you, to be able to improve on your process, and improving on your process could be you adding or removing from your the process activity, or sometimes, you could also help the management, to kind of invest in that organization. All right, so these are some of the questions that you can ask. What happened exactly? Build an incident timeline to determine this. I wish I can teach you incident timeline, but it wouldn't be in this training. If you come for the real one, then we can show you incident timeline, because if you're aspiring to become a cybersecurity incident response manager, you should be able to build a timeline, the timeline between when an incident happened, then every activity, the steps that you took, to the point of recovering your system, all right, or to the point of, closing that incident. Then that's an example of, what we call, the timeline. So that timeline, because you're reporting to the management now, you should be able to tell them exactly what's going on at each phases, or each stages of the incident response plan. Then you have what works, what didn't work, which procedure fails or failed to scale or respond to the incident, which staff role worked and were performed appropriately. So that's what you're doing under the incident. You're asking questions, so that you can identify the gap and also suggest improvement. All right, let's move on quickly. I'm conscious of time. This is supposed to be a 2-hour training. All right, so you see everything I've been teaching you all along. So you gave an example of NIST. In some organization, maybe your own organization, when you start to work, they would ask you to build a flow for them. All right, incident response flow. All right, while all of this story is good, everything I've been telling you about earlier on, they may say, you know what, give us a workflow. All right, design a workflow for us. So I thought this is a very, very nice workflow, and it kind of correlates with everything I've been teaching you all along. So look at this workflow, from preparation to detecting an event, identification, to containing an incident. You can see here, it is not an incident yet, it's still an event, all right? To escalating the incident, to you recovering from the incident, to lesson learned. If you look at this one now, it is very similar to NIST. So if someone put this flow together, we can conclude, they are taking their reference from NIST, okay? So very nice flow. Under preparation here, it said here, look at the note here, improve detection capability, improve, update documentation. So under preparation is all about documentation. Remember, we said the documentation that you find under preparation would be incident response, policy or incident response management policy, procedures and processes, incident plan. Those are all documentations. As a matter of fact, you would also have the incident response reporting, all right, how you intend to report to your organization. Everything that is happening under preparation will be documentation, all right? Detect the event, all right? Look at the detect event. So this is where all the toolings are here, all the technology that we talked about. So look at here. It said when your detection source, we said here, notification from MSC department, just ignore that, threat hunting, blah, 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 blah. All right, look at this. Log, correlate SIM, Linux host, Windows. So these are all what the technical guys will do. So they are collecting all the logs, from the end device, and they are feeding all the logs into the system, all right, into the SIM. The SIM will do the correlation, all right. Then it will be able to tell, the SOC engineer or the cybersecurity engineer if there's been any abnormalities, all right. So if there have been any abnormalities, so it's still very much under, detecting an event. Let me give you an example. Shego, for example, goes to a dodgy website. I don't mean it in a bad way, but you go to a website. Let's say Shego wanted to watch Premier League. So Shego didn't have a Sky subscription, but he's hell bent he wants to watch it. So he started going to the Google to find free Premier League, Arsenal versus Man U. He comes across a website. He clicked on the website. Let's say Shego is at work. All right, he clicked on the website. All right, assuming that this is a dodgy website. All right, what would happen immediately is maybe he clicked on the website and the link pop up, and he clicked on the link, so that he can watch the Premier League. So the logs will be collected from Shego's laptop. It will be fed into the SIM. All right, the SIM are quite quick, do the correlation and the analysis, and said, hey, you could flag it up immediately and say, what? It seems, there is, this website is dodgy, it's got a lot of, malware, spyware, and all of that. It will flag it immediately. So this is what the detection is all about. All right, you're working on your laptop or you've gone to a website, something will be detected by reason of the logs that was collected from your laptop at that particular time or your end machine. All right, so look at here. If you look further than here, it said detective and preventive control. So you could also have on Shego's laptop as well, antivirus software. All right, you could have Symantec or whatever, or McAfee or whatever it is, that is on Shego's laptop. All right, you could also detect as well by vulnerability management. So the point that we're trying to make here under this detection source is technology. While this is all about documentation, processes, this one is all about technology. All right, but you see this documentation kind of drive. This is not the time to teach you all of that. All right, this administrative control. All right. It drives, the technical control here. All of this one, they're all technical. This one is administrative, but the driver is here. Because whatever that you want your SIM to do, you must first capture it or write it out, all right, in your documentation. So that I don't go into details there, but you catch the gist. All right, so if you look at that, event is forwarded to security group. All right, so a security group could be the SOC analyst or the cybersecurity analyst. All right, you will receive an event in your dashboard. Oh, Shego's laptop is under attack. Oh, there's a malware there. All right, so they will determine to what extent, all right, is that malware, whether that has spread. Okay, if it is, then that is where the containment will come in. Look at this direction of this arrow. It says form ad hoc security incident response team. All right, so if this incident affect the entire, if it's going to affect the entire business, then there will be an ad hoc. This ad hoc is what they're essentially doing there is they are triaging. They want to triage to what extent is this incident. Is it just one person? Is it two? Is it three? Has it affected the entire system, or the likelihood that it's going to affect maybe 50% of the organization? Then they have to take an action there. All right. Then what usually follow is maybe a containment. You contain the incident, you eradicate, just as I've just said earlier on, then you recover, from the incident, then you, sorry, my son is making noise. Be quiet. All right, sorry about that. So So if you look at that, is that pointing downwards, which is lesson learned, which is post activity, post incident activity that we looked about earlier. So this is a very nice, incident flow. But you see, this is good. But look at it again here. It said documentation. You can see that when you're doing your security incident post-mortem communication or analysis here, you're actually writing things down. So if I take you back here, you can see here. So every question that you ask here, you will document it, isn't it? You will document it. You put it in the flow like this. All right. So you could see this is a very, very put together, incident flow. This will just guide you. I'm not saying that you should kind of lift this one and use it in your organization, but you see, the moment you get your own process in your organization, you can create one. Some of this activity is reusable, to be honest. It is reusable because this is a typical, this is a NIST splash SANS. If we look at it very well, this is a NIST splash SANS, incident management framework. There's someone has done it, that turned it around to become a workflow. All right, is this making sense? Is this making sense? We can't just unmute you guys because some of you have a very, very, is this making sense? Let me know if you're, so that I'm not wasting your time today. Okay, all right. All right, so that I just want to make sure that I'm not a time waster. so that I'm not wasting your time on a Saturday afternoon. Yeah, I'm sure I'm not. I think I'm adding value. Yeah, all right. Someone has raised up their hand. Just bear with me. We would ask questions. That's why I need to move quite quickly. All right. All right. So if you not look at this now, so what I've done was, this might look a little bit complex, but it's not. All right. It's not. This diagram that you see here is modern incident response life cycle. All right. So it's not different. All right, it's just different representation. So this helps to visualize what incident response looks like today. The modern incident response lifecycle diagram, this one picture below, it outlines the process involved, once an incident or a threat is realized. The diagram starts, from the left with the beginning of the incident response, which you're familiar with now. You can see here, prepare. The reason why I'm using this one is because, you see, look at where the OODA loop is. Look at this one. Observe, orient, decide, act. You can see when they plug in the OODA loop. So the OODA loop itself is not a framework, but it's there to enhance the framework. All right, remember we said it's all about collecting data. So if they ask in an interview and they're trying to, figure out whether you understand where you could integrate OODA loop into your framework, is under detect. Remember, OODA loop is all about you collecting data. So you will not need you may not necessarily have all the data, but you have some that you can work with. So it fits in directly under detect, all right, which is the phase 2 in NIST and also phase 2 as well in SANS, all right, because SANS was talking about identification. NIST is talking about detection. You can see where the OODA loop is. This is where you're collecting the information. And you see here, it's now pointing into containment as well, all right? You contain, you deny, you disrupt, eradicate, which is we've talked about. All right, then it moves down to recovery, lesson learned. Okay, if you're going to do post-mortem activity like a forensic, all right, it's under containment. Remember, I gave you the crime scene, CSI film. When a crime happened in a place, they would make sure that they contain that area so that you do not contaminate the evidence. All right, so you here, if an incident happened now, you would have done. So for me, I've used FTK. There's what a product called FTK. There's a forensic tool. I've used FTK and one of that. What's the other one? It just went over my head. Don't worry. So I've used all of that. I remember I worked for an energy company and there was an incident. And what happened was we were not entirely sure whether it was a cyber attack, but we suffered a ransomware, and the whole network collapsed and we couldn't do anything for that day. And my boss said, all right, the actual laptop that was, the corporate, let's make sure that we're able to collect a lot of information. So I'd use FTK to do memory dump of the entire laptop before we lose the evidence. Then we got Deloitte in, for forensic. All right. So if I go back to incident response to my incident response. So I would be at the stage here, phase 3, where I'm actually doing the containment. All right, you could see here, that's where the arrow comes in under forensic. Okay, so I thought that, this is also good as well, so that you can do relationship. So forensic, most times you do not wait till the end, though it has some relationship. All right, but if you want to start to collect information, all right, you start at the phase 3. All right, because when you get here, it might be too late, because if it says recover, then chances are maybe you have cloned, sorry, not cloned, maybe you have applied a new software to that laptop, and you've gotten rid of all of the evidences that you need. All right, if you wait till the end. So this here, under here, is where you actually will be doing a memory dump and be collecting information that can be used for digital forensic. Okay, yeah, is this making sense? I need to move quickly, but more importantly, you can see here communication. All right, there's an end-to-end communication. I'm going to talk to you about that shortly. All right, just, I want you to hold this thought. Communication is happening. All right, some of you might be asking, so, who do we communicate to? All right, so we're moving towards the end. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking to you now about, incident response process. So everything that we talked about in the incident response process that we've been, we'll look at the framework. You can now put it to work with this. So this is from, NCSC, the government. All right. So you could see, look at everything. So so what they've done here is they've had some flesh. They've had some flesh, to NIST, to SANS. They've made it, so they looked at that, you now make it your own. You know what I mean? Like, you look at the framework, you remove from it, you had a piece and bits into it, to make it your own. You adopt it, all right? You adopt it, but you have not made it your own. All right, so let's look at this. Don't forget preparation. They now say core response and also close down. All right, take your focus away from all of this first. All right, don't forget what we saw earlier on. Communication is key. All right, so the diagram here, it provides an example of an high-level incident response process with a few guide notes, which we're going to be talking about. Incident management collects together coordinated functions which guide, inform, and also support the whole response process. All right, it encompasses a few components. All right, it encompasses tracking, documenting, assigning, collating all findings, tasks, and communication. All right, so if you notice here, look at it. All right, so you oversee, you communicate, you engage, you escalate, you report, and notify. So if you are aspiring to become an information security incident manager, communication is key. All right, you may not be doing all the work. All right, when they are triaging, to be honest, you may not be skilled to triage an incident, but you must learn how to literally take the information from the techie people, and translate it or put it in a format that the business will understand. Communication is key. So if you walk into an interview and they ask you what is the most important thing, that you have to do, when, managing an incident, don't tell them about all the techie stuff, tell them about the need for a proper communication, both sideways and also upwards as well. All right, so you also need to arrange regular update meeting and calls. This is very, very important. So where I have done worked as an incident response manager, all right, if we have a critical, after we have triage and we have ascertained that this incident is critical, all right, or it is high, all right, by rule of thumb, we normally respond, by rule of thumb, you would have a regular meeting, all right, we call it update meeting, every 1 hour, every 1 hour. So should in case an incident happen now, all right, and we have ascertained we've tried this as an incident. So as a manager, I have the responsibility to update the business, what has happened every 1 hour. So that's part of the communication. So here we said that, you have to engage, or arrange regular update meeting or calls, involving the regular or the relevant team. all right, you have to do that, updating them. So you can imagine if it's a ransomware attack, okay, and you have ascertained that, you will bring your techie team together, i.e. maybe your SOC analysts, IT, and all of you, bring them together into what we call the war, the war room. We normally call something the war room. We bring them together. That's where you now start to troubleshoot. So whatever they've done in the last 1 hour, all right, you will take an action from that. In the real training, I will show you, what a timeline is, all right, but not here. In the real training, I will show you what the timeline is and how you report actually. So the report is not supposed to be story, all right? So you're not telling story how they, no. It's very, very concise. It's direct to the point. You will talk about what has happened now and the action that you're taking, in the next hour. So you do that, all right? You would also escalate a serious incident, to senior management as well, ensuring that the incident is communicated appropriately, to the wider team, to the business, and also stakeholder. It is important that, you see, when an incident happens, the CEO does not need to know, all right? As long as your manager is aware, and maybe the CISO office is aware. I'm talking about cybersecurity incident now. They can, filter down, that information down to, people that are topmost in your business, all right? Because you don't just want to, not at that level, you'll be telling everybody, oh yeah, you have an incident, all right? It would be, your manager, if you're an incident response manager, the manager, maybe your CISO, then all other key stakeholders as well. Key stakeholder could be asset owners, all right? So if, the incident involves a particular asset, all right, you will get them involved. If IT team is helping you, you probably will get the IT team manager involved. And so you just have to identify the relevant people that would be in communication. You would also ensure that the full incident management cycle, which is this one, is also there as well. You may consider the option for securing or alternative communication in the event that sensitive incident or where normal channel is not available. So, for example, if this involves, customer information, all right, so you have to you have to limit the damage. You know what I mean? You have to maybe have a secure way or alternative way of reporting this, to the management, especially if it involves maybe very, very sensitive data, all right? What is also important for you as an incident manager is you have to understand the roles and the responsibility of your incident response team as well. So whoever is helping you out, you need to understand their roles and responsibility. So you remember I said earlier on that if you are triaging, you will call people into a war room, all right? So if this had to do with maybe your network device, okay? So the network team have to be, in the same room with you. Also, you may want to get involved, if this has to do with customer data, you may want to get the data base team involved as well. Let me show you something here. Maybe this would help. All right, so if you look at this structure here, like a hog, all right? So you could see pretty straightforward. It talks about senior and executive management available to support critical decisions, such as taking an important system offline. So for example, if you want to contain the incident and it requires that, all right, we're under an attack and we have to remove the system offline, of course, you need the buy-in of senior management, all right? So you also need, if you're acting as an incident management now, so this is where you will sit, all right? Would be your role, all right? Responsible for ensuring all actions are tracked and that the incident is documented, communicated, and communicated clearly. So this is where you will sit if you're acting in that role. But if you are a SOC analyst, you'll probably be here, all right, supporting this incident. You're not the incident manager, but you'll be called into a meeting, all right? So here it says lead technical response and recovery. This gives the technical incident manager the time to handle the overall response. You might be here, all right? Look at here, IT. You might also be here as well, or SME. No, sorry, elite. This one is elite. So if you're a SOC analyst, you might be here. Or if you're a database or an IT infrastructure person, you might be here. You are further down the bottom and you're supporting, this incident, okay? But this is optional. So if you have to, for example, if this involves data loss, a massive data loss, for example, then you have to think of reporting to ICO, All right. So there must be a communication plan. So you as an incident manager will never go to ICO. It's important I let you know that it is not your cup of tea or responsibility. So you should have a data protection officer in your organization that you are liaising with, giving them an update in terms of what extent data has been compromised. They will now have the responsibility to make sure that they report to the government if need be. All right. If this involves, if you suspect that, you have to invoke your business continuity. For example, your BCM team, all right, would also be involved as well. All right, they are the business continuity and disaster recovery thing. All right, say for example, if the server becomes unavailable, all right, because of cyber attack, all right, you may have to invoke DR. All right, DR is disaster recovery. In that situation, if you have to involve the police, law enforcement, again. Maybe that would be towards, you're doing the containment and towards the end, all right, of the entire process, all right. It may also be around here. But listen, if you're an incident manager, what you're doing, your role is to track the incident, document it as much as possible, and communicate, to the right stakeholder. I do not expect you, number one, to be reporting the incidents to law enforcement agency or to the government or to ICO. That is someone else, responsibility. All right. So the point that we're trying to make here, to take you back, is, in your team, you must know who is doing what, the roles and responsibility. Sometimes in some role, they may not have something like this. It might just be what they have employed you to do. So I'm hoping that this document, or what I'm sharing with you today, will provide, to a large extent, a very, very good guidance, for you to develop an incident response management plan. And don't worry if you don't know how to actually practice this. If you decide to join us on the 28th for the actual training itself, then we have something for you where you can actually put, your thought or whatever that we've taught you into practice, in the actual or in the real training. Triaging is this bit. All right, I want you to, let me get your attention here. I know where, our time is fast spent. We still have about 10 minutes, but I will run quickly because I want Mr. Tunde Shogaolu to still come and show us some stuff. All right, triaging. What is triaging? All right. So this is one of the most important, and in interview, you will hear this word a lot. All right. Triaging is not only used, in incident response management. They use it everywhere. All right. So what does it mean? It's understanding the type and the severity of an incident. Understanding the type and the severity of an incident. This helps you determine how urgent your response is. The type and the severity of an incident, then this would also help you to determine your response. Don't forget that in OODA loop, you don't need to know you don't need to have a lot of information. Something has happened, you jump into it so that you can contain it. You can contain the damage. But when you're now triaging, all right, you want to know, how do we prioritize this incident? Because if you do not know the severity, you may not be able to prioritize it. So what does that mean? It just simply means that you're asking questions. All right, triaging is all about asking questions. So if you're a manager, you're asking questions. So there are two aspects to triaging: severity and also category as well, or severity, category, or the type. All right, severity and the category. And when you're triaging, three questions you're asking yourself: this incident, will it affect availability? All right, is the availability of data or system impacted? All right, that is the first question you're asking. What is the impact of the availability of our system and the data? All right. Or what you're trying to get out is, what is the impact on the entire business? All right. So take Amazon, for example. If Amazon website becomes unavailable for any reason, all right, the impact is not directly on the on Amazon. The impact is is on the entire users, millions of users that's going to be consuming that services today. All right, so Amazon will ask that question, for example, what is the impact on availability? If someone reported a malware outbreak on their system or on their data center, they will be asking that questions. All right, and if it would impact the users and the entire business, then they will consider that incident, very, very high. So it means that the severity is high, and the action that, they would take, on that, by reason of that severity, would also be, quite, prompt as well. The second question they would ask is the confidentiality. He said they would be asking the question, as confidential, sensitive data being accessed, leaked, or stolen. All right. So you might be in the middle of an incident where you can't even ascertain whether confidentiality has been affected, whether data has been stolen or not. You don't know. All right. You may know that, well, the system is down. All right. It has affected availability, but we don't know to what extent whether data has been compromised. So I'm not saying that you should be able to answer all of those questions, but these are the questions that you would ask your techie people if you are the incident response manager. All right. Number 3, integrity. Could data or system have been altered such that they cannot be trusted? All right. So you're asking those questions again. What is it? Has it affected the data integrity? Has it been tampered? Again, those are questions that you're going to be asking as an information security manager. But who do you pose this question to? Yeah, you pose the questions to, the system owners. All right. So don't forget that you're going to bring everybody into a room. Those are the people that you're going to be asking questions. They will be there. You'll be saying, oh, the database guy, can you go into database? If the system is still live anyway, if it's not down, can you check in the database and ascertain whether, data has been compromised or not? Somebody will go there and check for you and tell you, oh, wow, it seems there's an activity going on here. I do not know. Or they could go and say, okay, maybe our data is still intact. All right. That is what you know at that particular time. It doesn't mean that data has not been stolen, but by that particular time, you can report back to the management and say, hey, this is what we know. But you see, whatever answer that you get on the back of this, all right, would determine the action that you would take. It would determine the rating, all right, of that incident and the sort of action that you would take on the back of that, whether or not to escalate it. That would determine it. But let me quickly show you something. I've shown you this one. All right. You see here, these are different severity rating, and it would vary from organization to organization. All right. I'm not going to be showing you a lot of stuff today, but because of our time. All right. So you can see here, ignore this one is critical. This one is supposed to be critical. So it's supposed to be critical, high, medium, low. All right, critical, high, medium, low. Just bear with me, guys. Are you guys still there? I don't even know if people are. Please give me a thumbs up if you're still happy. Guys, are you still happy there? We'll soon finish, okay? I understand today is Saturday. It's not my intention to just bear with me, guys. Give me a thumbs up if you're still happy and if this is making sense. I will soon finish, trust me. Let me just correct this typo. Okay, let's correct that typo. I've corrected that typo now. Critical. Is this helping you guys? I have quite a number of my existing students here, and I'm sure that they're really enjoying this. All right. So remember we said that you're going to be asking questions around confidentiality, integrity, and availability. All right. How the incident has affected those three. All right, so this one is a severity rating. All right, so when you ask your question, you could ask your question in relation to how your organization sees severity based on your risk appetite. All right, so for example, now look at here. This one said criticality. Said over 80% of the staff, all right, unable to work. That is critical. Critical system offline with no known resolution. Say for example, Workday is offline. Amazon is not available. That is critical. That will be critical to Amazon. All right. High risk to, or definitely breach of sensitive client or personal data, financial impact, or severe reputation damage, likely to impact. So if you're asking questions and all of this is ticking the box, all right, then you're really, really in a bad situation. All right, you know what I mean? Not you, the organization is really, really a bad situation. And this will be deemed as critical. All right. So in other words, if 50% of staff unable to work, risk of breach personal sensitive data, non-critical system affected, a critical system affected, or critical system with known or quick resolution, financial impact, potential serious reputational damage. All right, so that will be seen as high. You could see the difference there. That one was talking about 80. This one was talking about 50. That one was talking about critical system. This one was talking about non-critical system. Medium is 20% of the staff, and low is minimum, or if any, impacted at all. So when you're asking your questions, you cannot just ask a blank question. So an incident response manager, you can have your questions all written out. Oh, can you tell me how many users will this affect? You know what I mean? If you materialize, someone can say, oh, yeah, if this becomes the whole of entire HR, if this is a workday, server, for example, the entire HR will not be available. Oh, wow. You know what I mean? So someone can say, oh, wow, this is a serious incident, or, if this network becomes unavailable. So if your service provider is Virgin Media, and you say Virgin Media, their internet pipeline becomes unavailable, it means that the entire workforce will not be able to do anything for that day. All right, so that's critical. All right. Say, for example, if a company is providing you VPN and their VPN becomes compromised, for example, and the VPN again becomes unavailable. So that's critical, because then everybody that is working from home at that particular time will not be able to use the service. All right. So it would affect the entire organization. So I'm just giving a bit of context, to what I'm talking about. All right. So that you'll be able, so as an incident response manager, you could ask the right question, and this severity rating can help you, create your own question that you want to ask. If you walk into an interview and they're asking you, all right, so what question will you ask? You can write your own question on the back of the severity rating. All right, is this making sense, guys? I'm conscious of time. Is this making sense? All right. I don't know. Is this making sense? Timothy, please, can you share our, the link? Some people might just want to register with us at the end of this training. Can you share the link with them, please? Can you share the link with them, please? Timothy, are you there? I don't know if my guys are still there. Ari, are you there? Tunde? Tunde, are you there? Ari? I'm not sure if my guys are still there. Timothy, are you there? Timothy? Timothy is not here. Tunde? Oh dear. All right. Okay. So, Alex, are you there? I just want someone to share the link. Alex, are you there? Guys, just bear with me. I do apologize. I just want to make sure that. Yeah, they're all right. Okay, Alex. Yeah, Alex, you're there. Can you share the? Yeah, don't worry. I know I need to mute them. Alex, can you share the? I don't know why Timothy is not here. Alex, if you do not mind, the link to the actual registration for the training itself, please, if you do not mind, can you share it so that people can see it? The link to the actual registration, because I'm coming towards the end now. Can you call Tunde Shogalu, so that he can show us the other approach, maybe for the new people, not for the our existing student. Can you call Tunde Shogalu? Just bear with me, guys, because I am rounding up and I'm just conscious of time. Alex, I'm unmuting you, so if your background is noisy, I just want to get a confirmation that. Alex?
Yeah, I'll call Tunde now, sir.
All right. Do you have the link to the where they can register?
Yes, I'll send it now.
Okay, put it on the. I mean, for people that are interested in actual training, you know.
Okay.
Thank you. Call today, please. Thank you. Because I'm running up. All right. So bear with me. We will finish anytime soon. We're taking 2 hours of your time, but listen, if this is good for you, then it's worth the wait. All right. So we've talked about that, and I was talking to you about the questions that you're going to ask. The triaging, yeah, you know what that is at the moment, is a common lingua. You also have to categorize the incident as well, whether this incident is a denial of service, you know, or whether this is just a phishing email incident, unauthorized access, whether this is an insider or a data breach or a targeted attack. These are, you have to be able to tell exactly the type of incident, because it would help when you're reporting to the management and the sort of actions that you would take. What is important is you may not know exactly, you know, you as an incident manager, you may not be, you'll be relying on the technical people, you know, to tell you the nature of the incident, but it's part of the questions that you also have to ask as well. All right. Then if you look at here in the middle here, here you could escalate to your incident response team, you know, to the CISO office or to the CIO office. You could kick off incident response immediately. When you're triaging, I suspect sometimes that you've already kick off the incident response immediately. All right, you're getting people into the room and you're looking at the, you know, you're looking at the incident, to what extent, and you're taking actions on the back of that. Then you're also reporting as well. So if this is a critical incident or high incident, I said something earlier on, there are 2 things that you're going to be doing, you know, where I've done this before. Every hour I'm reporting, you know, to the business, you know, the situation of things, you know, what we've done and what we intend to do. So I'm taking actions, you know, from the meeting that I had with, you know, the incident response team, you know, I'm taking action. I'm telling them what they're going to be doing. They will go and investigate that. We convey in 1 hour. You know, they tell me, you know, what they've done. You know, I will take that again information. I'll report it back, you know, to the business. In the actual training, I'm going to be showing you the reporting techniques. You know, there's something that I did in one of my roles. It was very, very good. It's not about just writing too many emails. No, reporting technique, fantastic. Where you would, you know, it's like a little illustration. You know, it depicts exactly, you know, what you're doing per hour, you know, and the progress that you're making. But that will be in the actual training itself. All right. So that, you know, you get that in actual training. Then you see this here. We've already talked about this, to be honest. You know, in triaging, you're going to be doing a whole of this. You would analyze, capture, and analyze the data information. You can see how that is fitting. You will contain. You see, a lot of these buzzwords are kind of repetitive. It's the same. You're analyzing, you know, you're reporting, you know, you're analyzing, you're containing, you're mitigating. You know what that is now, you know, and you're eventually trying to remediate it. Remediation could be, you know, you're removing. You're putting a stop to the incident, maybe by removing, you know, the laptop or the host that is compromised from the network. You know, you are reimaging it. You know, whatever that you're doing, you know, that will put a stop, you know, to the incident, you know, is actually remediation. In the actual training as well, we're going to be looking at various use cases, various, you know, case study, all right, various case studies that would bring to light some of the things that we've taught you. You know, then you begin to see the usefulness of each of those stages, you know, in each of those case studies as well. Then lastly, you're going to see here what we call the recover data and also system if needed, resume business as usual. You know, don't forget that the 2 goals, you know, of incident response is, number 1, you know, is to contain the damage as much as possible and to resume, you know, business continuity. And when you get here is when the incident is resolved and it's also closed at some point as well. All right. So I think I am going to stop here. This is where, you know, I can help you also if I can't go further. I've got a few other things. I've already showed you this one. But time will not permit me to show you. I've got 3 more slides, but time, I'm not going to go into it. In terms of classification of incident, all right? For this one, for example, this classification, for example, you see, when you triage, when an incident is first reported, an incident could be classified as critical, all right? Because at that time, if you're considering the OODA loop, you do not have all the information in that particular incident. It might just be a tiny bit information that you have at that particular time. So you could classify it as critical, all right? But when you do the triage, all right, you can now notice that, oh, wow, maybe data is not even impacted. There isn't anything serious, maybe a bit of availability issue, all right? So you could downgrade it, maybe from critical, to medium or even to low, depending. But I don't have all the time to start to talk to you about, about that classification of incident. In your incident management response policy, every organization would have, would have in their response policy, classification of incident. They will clearly, they will clearly state what that actually means. All right, they will clearly state it. All right, just like the severity rating that I showed you earlier on. And if you're unsure, what level of classification or how you can classify an incident, you can refer back to your incident management response policy. But like I said, in the triaging, that's where it gives you a true picture of what's actually going on, and you can take an action on the back of that. I don't know, did we put any, let me just, Alex, I don't know if Tunde Sugalu is here or. Okay, let me unmute you. All right, thank you. Because I was calling your name, you were in there, so that's why I don't know. I just want to make sure. All right, I've unmuted you if you want.
Okay, thanks, Wale. I've been on it, but because I'm muted, I couldn't say anything.
All right, that's fine. What I would do is you would have just send a message there. I will make you a co-host. We just have like to do this like in 2 minutes, please. I don't want
sure.
So I'll make you a co-host now. You present your slide, show them our entire candidate's journey. And then I don't know where Timothy has gone. I was expecting him to put the link there for the actual registration. All right, Tunde, over to you now.
Thank you, Wale.
So guys, I just want to say thank you. I know that we said 2 hours, but we're 2:08 now. We do apologize in advance. We're people that keep to time, but trust me, if this is what the wow for you, you would have learned a lot today. And if this is what you want to do with us, please, register and let us, let's have fun. Let's teach you what we couldn't teach you now in the actual training. So over to you today. Okay. So someone is asking the next class is going to take place on the 28th. 28. Today, yeah, put your presentation mode if you don't mind.
Okay. Sorry, Wale, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, I can see your screen actually.
Okay, let me go back again.
If you put it in the presentation mode. Yes, it's in presentation mode now.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Our folks, thank you very much for the 2 hours plus that you spent with us today. I'm sure it's been a very worthwhile journey. But in a nutshell, when you do come on the training with us, these are the steps from 1 to 7 that you will go through with us. So this is our full candidate's journey from when you want to say, oh, yes, Wale, I'm interested, I'm signing up, all of the things that we need to do, we'll make sure we do that. But the first things first is to ensure that, okay, I don't have a cybersecurity background. How can I come on this? This is one of the first steps you would take, in terms of understanding and knowing yourself. Then it helps us and helps you as well, whether deciding you will do the technical courses or the non-technical courses. So there is something for everyone based on what Wale and Timothy had shared earlier on with our course bundles. So once we do this one, then we'll do our pre-training course, which is a step thing, which is the next thing. Basically, we'll take you through all the things that we're going to do for you all through the training, as well as when the training is completed. So we will have you do that with us. Then the next thing is when we onboard you as a candidate. What does that mean? All our materials, everything that you need for the training and beyond, you'll be provided all of that during the candidate's onboarding. So don't think that is a very long process. We can do all of these things completed in one day. So it's not, and we can even do it within the hour as well. So Don't try and lose your heads about that. Then when we start our training as well, so for all the course bundles, starting from GRC to GDPR to all our courses that we have, then we go into that phase. Then once we finish the training, the good thing is that we have what we call our project phase. This is where everything that you've done during the training, you bring it to bear, you bring it to life, during the project phase. So some of the things that you have learned, you begin to practicalize it, get your hands dirty, make your mistakes, learn from it. Then before we move you onto the next phase, which is the mentoring and CV review. So you finish your training, you've done the project, you want to start going out there, applying for roles, you want to change the course of your career, then we would help you in the 6th phase, which is the mentoring and CV review, up until the final phase when you've gotten or secured interview. So for example, yesterday we had an interview session time with some of our candidates that just finished the project with us, so that is what we will do for all our candidates. So once we do that and everything is fine, then we're good. But it doesn't end there. Once you've secured a job as well, it's a journey. That's why we say it's a journey. It's not a destination, so everything, we will keep supporting you all through the way till you become very comfortable and you move on. So that in a nutshell is what our candidates journey looks like. And we're very glad to, have everyone that will be part of this onboarded. Thank you very much. Wale, back to you. If there's any question, guys, please feel free.
All right, Tunde, thank you. Yeah, so thank you. That was spot on. Very, very quick. So guys, we have now come to the end. Tunde, maybe you want to flip control back to me. All right, thank you. We've come to the end. I just want to say a special thanks to everyone. We had about 69, but listen, if you're still here, it means that you're enjoying it. Just bear with me. Someone is calling me. I don't know. All right, so guys, so thank you so much. Is there any question for us? Felix, Felix is asking us. All right, Timothy, please, can you reach out to Felix, please? If there's any question whatsoever, whatever it is, Timothy, can you reach out to Felix, please? Some people are asking about the, I thought the few, some people were asking questions about, just give me a sec. So some people were asking questions about the, Timothy, do me a favor. Can you bring back, because I still have about 54 people here. Can you bring back our, the training, the course modules? It's just important that I let people know that information, incident response management plan is not the only course that we're offering. We're offering much more. Timothy, is it possible for you to quickly bring up that information again?
Sorry, Wale, I think Timothy has dropped off for some reason. I don't know. I can't find him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, sorry about that. Okay, so let's wait for him to come back. Yeah, so we have so many courses. Is there any question particularly around this training today? I would like to answer that. Let me even stop recording. Let's stop recording. Just bear with me. So have you given me back?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. Just bear with me. I just want to stop the recording. Just bear with me. If I want to stop the recording to cloud, yeah.